Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a Swashbuckler Rogue Fighter Multiclass in Baldur's Gate 3. Now what's great about the Rogue is at level 4 we get most of the benefits, so we're able to get the extra attack from the fighter and still get 4 feats because the fighter can get 3 feats by level 8 and then the Rogue is going to get a feat at level 4. So this is actually a very solid multiclass. Now I would recommend starting with the fighter. That's going to be obviously the stronger Rogue because you get the extra attack at level 5. But we're going to start with the Rogue here, just because this gives us the extra skill proficiencies, and for our ability scores, we're going to build mostly around dexterity, but it does pay to have some strength involved too. So something like this can work well, but we can also swap around constitution or strength. All 3 of these skills we want to have high, because those are going to be our main skills, but we could also... The Dirty Tricks, Flick of the Wrist, and the Vicious Mockery both use Charisma for their spell save DC, but the Sand Toss uses Dexterity for its spell save DC, so we could hypothetically build around our Charisma as well. And what's nice is you could dump your Strength and just use a Strength Potion if you really wanted to, and then we could go with something like that there. Alternatively, we can dump the Constitution a little lower and go 16 Dex, 14 Constitution, and we go 16 with our Charisma so that we can have a higher spell save DC on our Vicious Mockery, and the Flick of the Wrist, which is the most impactful weapon option that we got for a bonus action, so we can use this score as well. In skill proficiencies, I'd recommend Sleight of Hand and Stealth, Stealth being the most important one there, but also going with Persuasion can be nice too if you're the face of the party, because we're going to have some Charisma as well. At level 2 of the Rogue, we get the bonus action, Cunning Actions, High, Disengage, and Dash, which is nice to give ourselves another bonus action ability here. And level 3, this is when we can choose our subclass, and we're going to go with the Swashbuckler. This gives us the fancy footwork, so we do a melee attack, we can run away, and we don't get hit with opportunity attacks, kind of like the mobile feat. And we get the Rakish Audacity here, which gives you a +2 bonus to initiative rolls, and you no longer need to get advantage to be able to do your sneak attacks, as long as you're within 1.5 meters of the target and do not have disadvantage. This is really nice. I'll show you how we can take advantage of this using the fighter in the combat section of this video. And at level 4, this is when we get our Dirty Trick, Flick of the Wrist, and the Vicious Mockery, and the Sand Toss. As I mentioned, these both use our dexterity, or both use our charisma, and then the Sand Toss uses dexterity. Now for the feats, we could also go with a improvement to our dexterity, as that's going to impact our armor class as well as our overall damage with our ranged options and our melee options too. Now this is the best time to add in the fighter. Now you could go with the defense for the +1 armor class. We're going to use light armor, but there's other options too, like the 2-weapon fighting if we want to use our second offhand weapon too. So that's nice, but we do have a good bonus action ability, so this is almost not necessary. Defense is being the best choice there. Then we also get our second wind spell, which is our bonus action ability, which is super useful for survivability. Level 2, Action Surge, enough said, super nice to have. At level 3, we get to choose our subclass. Now, I thought about a few of them, like the Eldritch. The Champion is kind of interesting because this will increase your critical hit chance. However, the Battlemaster just ends up being flat out better. This gives us the ever powerful riposte attack here, which can, anytime a creature attacks us and misses, we can do an attack that does an additional 1d8 damage. That's really nice to have. In addition to this, there's a couple other really effective ones, like our menacing attack can frighten a target and deal additional damage. Also, the trip attack can knock targets prone, which is great. Normally that'd be great for setting up sneak attack, but we don't need that anymore. And disarming strike to be able to disarm a target is also extremely effective. So that's the maneuvers we're going to be starting off with there. I found those to be the most impactful ones to go with. Once we hit level 4 here, we get ourselves another feat. And at this point, I think maxing out our dexterity is our best option. So we're going to roll with that. At level 5, extra attack. So now we can do 2 attacks and our bonus action, Flick of the Wrist. Look at the Flick of the Wrist. At level 6, we get our extra feat here. So there's a couple of nice ones. We got the Savage Attacker to reroll our damage die twice. It's just flat out increases the amount of damage that we're going to be able to do. We could also go with something like our alert feat for the +5 initiative, although we do get a bonus to our initiative from the Rakish, from the Swashbuckler as well. So that's, I guess, another choice we could go with. Also, if you want to use close hand crossbow, like the 2-hand crossbows, and then go with Crossbow Expert, you can do these attacks at close range. So that's another good option. But Savage Attacker, just flat out damage increase, is really, really nice to have. Also, I guess another choice is the Defensive Duelist. So if you're attack while wielding a finesse weapon you're proficient with, you can use a reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class. So that's a +4 bonus to your armor class, which is actually really nice. And it fits thematically with this as well. But Savage Attacker is going to increase our overall damage output, so that can be good. At level 7, we get our superiority die, and we get 2 more maneuvers. So at this point, I think it's good to go with the The pushing attack can be nice to push back creatures. It's actually really effective at just creating distance for and also setting up to do your sneak attacks. But we also get Rally here, which is spend a superior die to give an ally 8 temporary health points. Great if you have teammates that go down. So I think that these two options are pretty good. If there's one of these other ones that you want, go with that here. Like some of them are kind of okay, but I think that this is the best. Or if you don't want the pushing attack, going with the trip attack is also quite nice. And for the final level, level 8, we get ourselves another feat. And as mentioned, defensive duelist, since not one that I pick often, I think it's a good choice here. Adding a +4 to our armor class is really nice as a reaction. So yeah, we'll roll with that there. As for gear here, I'm going to roll with the Mask of Soul Perception. It's a late game option. You could also go with the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, because this will actually increase the chances of our Vicious Mockery and Flick of the Wrist working. Believe it or not, it works. Kind of funny. So that's another option. Birthright, increase your charisma. It's a good, decent choice too. But early game options, I mean, even a late game option, Baldur is pretty nice. Helmets are best available, even like the Shadow Men's Brands. It can be not bad early in the game. Now, the best cloak is either, cloaks aren't a great selection, but cloak protection, increase armor class. Shade Slayer cloak for the increased critical hit chance. And if you're the Dark Urge, Deathstalker Mantle works perfectly for turning yourself invisible after every knockout. Ballast armor, best in slot, being able to give the vulnerability to piercing damage plus our sneak attack, giving that additional 2d6 piercing damage on top of that is crazy because it's now doubled. And this also gives us an increase to our initiative. Early game options, the best available, like once you add in the fighter, you get medium armor proficiency, and you could start fighter to get heavy armor proficiency. Even the armor of agility is another good choice too if you want to have maximized armor class. With that, we would get our armor class up to 25. I think it's worthwhile sacrifice to double our damage to get 22 armor class. Now, the gauntlets of the War Master actually work well here. This gives the heightened maneuver. Targets have disadvantage on the saving throws against your maneuver and weapon attacks. This is good because, hey, we're going to be using maneuvers. We only have 5 die, but that's pretty nice to have. Alternatively, since we didn't take the gloves of the balance hand, you could go with that. But I don't think it's best to do an offhand attack since we got our Flick of the Wrist here, which we use our main hand attack damage. So that is quite nice to have as well. I guess other options would be like the Dark Justiciar gauntlets, or even if you wanted to, the Helldust gloves for the +6, 1 to 6 fire damage, which is really nice. So those are good options as well. I think I'll put that on just to show the maximum damage we can do with it. Adhesive shoes for the boots, although early game, even the disintegrating Nightwalkers are super useful for the teleport that they can give you. Now for the weapons, we could go with something like the Crimson Mischief, which gives us additional 7 piercing damage when we make an attack with advantage. And that piercing damage is doubled, so we can actually do quite a bit of damage on a target with that. And with this in the offhand, they can set a +1 armor class, put our armor class up to 23. So that can be pretty useful, although it does give us a riposte attack, which we already basically have. So if you wanted to even do something different, like the Dolor Amaris here, which gives you increased critical hit damage, even going with one weapon, the Duelist Prerogative, this will give you an extra reaction, which can be pretty nice to do 2 ripostes per turn. Knight for the Undermounted King, a little bit earlier game. This is a great one. This gives advantage on attack rolls against slightly or heavy obscured targets. And even the Justiciar's got Scimitar, although this does slashing damage, and we want piercing as much as possible. So something like that can work good. Even if you want to go, like, this doesn't give you the finesse, but the Sharp Spear of the Evening is another good choice because it gives you the darkness. You can hide out in that. But yeah, Hellrider Longbow for increased initiative, as well as the ability to apply Fairy Fire, Ring of Protection for better armor class, Skiller Sweetheart, and Amulet of Greater Health. This puts us to 143 health, and I'll show you what this looks like in combat. So upon getting into combat, we want to go ahead here with our Rakish Sneak Attack. If there's a target that we can apply this to, go after them, because that's going to be an easy takeout if you don't get a critical miss. And we can just always follow that up with another attack there. So this is going to take them out with a solid, too much damage. And then this turns us invisible, so then we can follow up with another attack here and possibly go with a disarming attack here to remove their weapon. That took them out in one shot, which is perfect. And then we can just follow up with a final attack against this target. Don't use up all your superiority die in one go, because we do want to have those for our other attacks there. But yeah, crazy damage with this, and then get yourself into a prime position. And we got a bunch of targets here. This one's by itself, so it's going to get that Rakish Sneak Attack off. Big one shot there, no surprise. This is pretty powerful of an ability. And then we can follow it up by going after the other targets here. So dropping a menacing attack on him there. Boom, that was a nice takeout with 48 damage on that. And then we'll just follow it up with another attack here. Boom, perfect. I unfortunately wasted my bonus action. I was going to use that on the Dirty Trick Flick of the Wrist. And for our final action, we'll go ahead with just attacking this target here. And they have low health, so we won't even have to worry about that. 38 damage on that, pretty crazy. And then we can run up over here. Not enough range to be able to go after them, but a action surge could work well if we want to use our bow attacks. And this is your friendly reminder, remember to turn off dual wielding while using this. And you just press the R key, or it just saves you your bonus actions. We want to use the flick of the wrist here, which I'll show you. Cool attack animation, so you go boom, and it can do a ton of damage and make them do a bunch of constitution saving throws for some reason. But then we can always follow this up with our attacks, and for some reason I lost the rakish sneak attack. Not sure why, but no, it's not bad damage. We usually can one-shot most targets that have a are not immune to piercing damage, so that is really nice. And I guess we'll go with a menacing attack here on this target for that extra damage die to bring us. Boom, attacking with advantage, very powerful. And another thing, if we can't make our way to a target, the Cunning Ash and Dash is really nice because you can use that to increase your range. But we also got our pocket sand attack. You can do the dirty trick sand toss here, so throw pocket sand in their eye. It's hilarious. And then we also got our action surge to further increase the amount of damage and attacks that we got. So we can do some pretty crazy stuff with this. Boom, the finisher, 48, 14, 5, and 4 damage. Pretty crazy. So yeah, that is the Swashbuckler fighter in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see y'all in the next video.